So open Adobe Premiere. You'll create a new project name. I'm going to call this 360-1. Over here is where you would import the media clips that you have. So these would be the ones that are in your rendered folder from getting your SD cards rendered by GoPro Fusion Studio. And you would just either double click here or File, Import. So the first time I can usually get away with going here, go to Movies, GoPro Fusion. This is where I created a rendered file. And I'm going to do a video about Alpha the Bobcat. So I'm going to pick just those three and import them. And then when you double click over here on one of the clips, it plays it in a window here, and you can pick your in point and your out point. So that's I and O on your keyboard if you like. And so you will want to listen to the audio so that you know you're getting pieces that are important and not cutting off a sentence right in the middle. So I'm going to say that's my endpoint. And although this looks horrible here, you'll see that it looks much better after it's all been edited. So I'm going to say that's my out point and click an O there, and then just hit the space bar to make it stop playing. And then this is where you can choose just the video or just the audio or the entire thing. So I just click on that picture there, it makes the fist, and I'm going to drag it down here to my timeline. What it does here is I have the spatial surround sound, and so it's got 4 different tracks for the sound. You can make your area that you're working with bigger or smaller by clicking on this and dragging it. I like to make it kind of long so that I know exactly where I want to cut in. So I'll be looking at it like this and then go, oh, you know what, I really don't want that. So on your keyboard, hit C and it turns it into the razor blade, and wherever you put the razor blade up on this top line, it will cut it all the way down. And that is because this is highlighted in blue, which means that it's tying your video to your audio, which of course you want to do in a situation like this. You might not want to do that in some situations, but for what we're doing, we would say yes. So we'll play it forward and say, oh, here's the part where I want to start back in. I still have it set to C. So I'll click it again, and then on your keyboard, touch V, and you'll see it turns it back into this. And then right click on the piece you want to get rid of. And this saved me a ton of time. I couldn't find anybody talking about this online. After you find what you want to get rid of, you could just hit the delete key. But now you have to, if you had a bunch of other clips here, you have to highlight all of them and drag them over. So Command Z will take you back to where you were. And what you'll want to do instead is right click on it and go to Ripple Delete. And what that did was it got rid of it and it pulled everything that was to the right of it alongside of it. So Ripple Delete is your friend when it comes to editing. So let's scroll through a little bit forward. And all of these windows, you can make them bigger or smaller depending on what you're editing. If I'm not doing a lot of audio work, I might want to make this one bigger. All right, so that's how you cut the pieces that you want, and then you would go up here to the next piece, and what you'll see is whenever you make a clip like this, it's a sequence. So it's taking the information from here and actually making a smaller section, which it calls a sequence, or up here is where you have your sequence settings. That'll be important later on. We just had, so we'll open up another piece. We'll do an in. And you want your sections to be at least 17 seconds long. If it's less than 17 seconds, it doesn't give people the chance to look around. And there may be cases where you would want that if there's like only something happening right in front of them, but you don't want a whole lot of that. So I'll go there and I'll hit O. Oops, that was 0. Go to O, and don't like the way these windows are set up, but it just moved them around on me. And up here is where you can set the windows the way you want them. Must have been some update or something. I'm not using that for right now, or that. I can make that smaller. Scroll over here, take this clip, drag it down onto the timeline. And what you can see is when this clip was created, it only had one audio track. It didn't have the 4. So that was something you could choose or not choose in the Fusion Studio when you were stitching. It's not going to make a whole big difference here. So you can see that's how you add them all together. It was just driving me crazy. So what I did was I came up here to Workspaces and I chose Editing as my default one. And this is the one that I like best. So it looks a little bit different, as you can see. You can save your windows any way that you want them if you get to working with them a certain way. So after you have all of the pieces dragged into your timeline over here, then you start doing the fancy stuff. And you might want to make the clips smaller so that you don't have to keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling down this way. Dragging this bar will take you back to the front. The transition that Adobe Premiere considers to be the default is a cross dissolve, but in immersive VR it looks better if you use other types of dissolving, because with the cross dissolve, that's made for a flat 2D screen. So what we'll do is come to effects, because a transition is considered an effect, and then over here type in IMM for immersive. And these are all of the video transitions that are immersive. I happen to like VR light leaks and VR light rays the most, but you might like something else. So you just take whatever the transition is you want to check out, drag it to where it needs to go, place your playhead on either side, and then see how it looks. It doesn't show you really well in the editing how those come out, so sometimes you actually have to render the file, look at it, and go, oh, I don't really like that one, let me try a different one. After you've been working with 360 video for a while, this will start to look normal to you, and it'll be easy for you to edit in this kind of a screen. But until that happens, this is a very handy tool. It's called the Toggle VR Video Display, and this is what the viewer is looking at when they are looking straight ahead in the viewer. So sometimes in a situation like this, note how this is 0 and this is 0, but all of the action is happening down here. So what you'll want to do over here is open up the effect controls, and then you have to make sure that the clip that you're working with is highlighted, which it is. And then what we'll do is move this timeline. So this is a timeline 2 for the clip. There's your transition for the video transition that we just put in. And then it's going to scroll through time on that clip. We can change what happens there by coming here to the very beginning and clicking Position, Scale, and another thing that we want to do is an effect over here called Rotate Sphere so that we can rotate. So if you just start typing in ROT, you'll find Rotate Sphere. Just take that and put it on the clip. This little FX tells you that you have put this on here. And then if you pull down this scroll bar, you'll see that there is a Rotate Sphere, and you can hit these little stopwatches. So we're going to hit tilt, pan, and roll. If we wanted it tipped upside down, like maybe we had filmed it upside down, we would do that here by inverting the rotation, but we're not going to do that on this one because it wasn't upside down. So then what you can do, now that you've created these little keyframes, see these little diamonds here, and we want to make sure those are all the way back at the beginning, we'll come over here and scroll down to what it is that we really want the viewer watching, which is the kitten. So we might want to add a keyframe by clicking here. And I can never remember which one is pan, tilt, or roll until I start messing with it. So I just put a keyframe in for all of them. And whatever you rotate that to, just by dragging, is going to change what you're seeing here. So let's move it where you can see Jamie and the kitten. You might want to go a little bit that way so it's more centered. Don't really need the roll. So we'll pull the timeline forward And let's say we wanted to stop here. We'll put in keyframes again. And this time we want to rotate over to where the person feeding the kitten is. So we'll tilt it a bit and rotate it like that. So it's created this time where it's going to turn to that. So we start out like this, we go up to Jamie, and now as we start to pull forward, the camera starts rolling around to what we want it to focus on. You could pull that forward again and say, okay, I want it to be like that all the way up to there. So you would just highlight those, hit Command C, and then Command V to put them there so that it stays on Catherine through there. And then if you wanted to rotate back to Jamie, you might pull it forward a bit, drop in a keyframe, roll it back to Jamie. So now it's back on Jamie. See how it went from Catherine to Jamie. And then it'll stay wherever the last keyframe was, so you don't have to put one at the end, because whatever your last one here is what it will be to the end of the keyframe. This bar right here gives you more space in between the keyframes, which you may have to do on a really long piece where you're moving the camera around a lot. Another quick and easy edit is in dealing with the audio. So let's say you've got these 4 audio tracks here. We'll make this bigger so that we can see it better. You can drag these to make them deeper, easier to work with, and drag the volume up and try to keep it about the same. So that's 480. We'll say that's 480 just for kicks, and we're going to drag each of those up to 480 so it's a louder volume for that portion. And let's say you wanted to drop the sound back down, so make it a little bit bigger so it's easier to work with. You can take this pen tool and click on your sound line, and maybe click here as well, and then just pull it down. And let's say you wanted it to fade back up, you could do like that. So your sound is going to go down, and then it's going to go back up. And then you would have to do this for all 4 of your soundtracks if you have multiple soundtracks for spatial sound. If you only have 1 track, then you only have to do it for the 1 track. Adding narration is very important. It's one of the biggest failings that we have in all of our videos, I think, and especially in the 360 videos. We need to be telling stories. People love stories. And so if you want to add narration after the fact, here's an easy way to do it. I'm going to open this area up bigger so it's easier to work with. And since I have a video clip here playing and it has sound, I don't want that sound being recorded along with my voice. So I'm going to pull that all the way down so the volume is all the way down on the clip. And then I'm going to click this voiceover record. I do this with a headset on so that there's not feedback from the computer and it's not picking up your voice and the computer's voice, but you don't want to have the headset in your ears, otherwise you're hearing yourself, which would drive you crazy. So you just click the record button and it will tell you that it is recording. And so you would say, hey all you cool cats and kittens, it's Carole at Big Cat Rescue, and today's coordinator report is blah blah blah, and then turn the recorder off. And now you've got your audio. And so what you can do with your background, if you wanted part of it, just a tiny sound of the animals in the background so it's not such a contrast in the way that it's being heard, you can do like that. Get your pen tool, drop a couple of pins, and go back up. And as you can tell, there are a lot more things that you can do than what I am showing you how to do. There's just all kinds of edits that you can make through the effect controls. I prefer at the beginning and the ending of a clip to have text. So in a situation like this, you would want people to know who this is and why this is going on. So we've gone back to the beginning of the clip. We'll come over here to graphics, essential graphics. I have purchased some graphics and you're welcome to do that. You can also make your own graphics. So you can come over here to the text tool and choose the clip. I'm going to put this back in the bigger mode so it's easier to see, and you'll type onto the screen here, alpha. Bobcat. Once you make that, just click away anywhere, grab your move tool, and now you can take that and, whoops, now you can take that and drag it wherever you want it on the scene. So you might want it to be down where she is, down to where you want it. See how that looks now? That's pretty good. See how it's curved? So what you'll have to do is, for any graphic that you put into a 360 video, you're going to have to go to Effects, up here, type in Plane, and it's VR Plane to Sphere. You'll drag that down onto your graphic. And what that does is it may make it look weird when you're out like this. It'll be kind of curved, but when you're actually in the video headset, it's going to be correct. So you want to be sure to always drag that VR Plane to Sphere to your text so that it looks good to the viewer. You can make that bigger or smaller by dragging these handles, and the graphics, if you're browsing for graphics, if you have graphics saved, like this is one of them that I like, you just take the graphic and pull it onto the clip. The graphics work exactly the same way as your clips do. So over here you can see there's a timeline, and it opens up, does some little happy stuff, and then it disappears in its timeline, and it's already set to do those things. So I would drag it over until the whole thing is opened up here so that you can see what it's saying. It says write your text here. So under the essential graphics, you can see the source text says write your text here. You would type in alpha, and it seems to work from the bottom up. So these position controls and the sizes control the entire size, and then it's more granular as you come up here. So like your text can be smaller or larger or moved around with those things. Down here you can move it up or down with the Y. You can move it left or right with the X. You can change the color. You can change the color of the text. That's going to be Christmassy. So whatever you want to change it to. What I like to do, if you're going to use several of these, like you have several things that you want to say, is make this smaller. Click on the text that you just created. Once you get it all the colors and everything the way you want it, you would click on that, and then click on the Option key and drag it over. So it's really important that you click on the Option key and drag it over. If you were to just make a copy of that and drag it over, then every change you made to this one's also going to change it here, and that doesn't help if you're trying to put different words on different things. So hold down the Option key and make yourself a new one, and then you can go into each of these and change the text to whatever. So now you have the alpha that we wrote, you've got this one that pops up, something different pops up here, something different pops up here. And as you're looking at this, see how this is the one where we changed the way the rotation of the screen went. So that was why we had to have it like that, so that we could actually tell what was happening. But now that you've got text in there, it may not be in a good place. So be sure that you have it highlighted, and then select it and move it. And if you can't move it, then you can go to Effects and scroll back here. So this is where your position is, and you can say, I really want this thing down here. Highlight that and just pull it over to the beginning, because that's where you wanted it to begin. It's down there. There's more than one way to do these things. The big issue you're going to have with the audio is things like planes going over and people saying things that are inappropriate, or trying to cut out somebody who's laughing or talking very close to the microphone when the main part of the audio you're trying to capture is further away. You can do that with the ducking that we did with the pen tool. That's what that's called, pen tool. And you can edit your clips in Audition. So I want all of these audio clips to be rendered in Audition. So I can right click and say edit clip in Adobe Audition. When you look at your audio file, you'll see that this is some talking, this is some talking, and this is probably air conditioner noise in the background that's not really anybody talking. So you would create an in and out point. Same way, you would say I, drag this over to O, and now up here under Effects and Noise Reduction Restoration, capture the noise print. So it's like capturing what that noise is that's playing in the background that you're trying to get rid of. Say OK. And then deselect. So you come up here to Edit, deselect all, and then back to Effects, back to Noise Reduction, and click Adaptive Noise Reduction. And hit Apply. And now you can see where it's evened that line out so that most of that background noise is gone. And when you hit Save, it saves it here, and it's already saved over here in Premiere. So you can see that the audio file is very different here than it is over there. At the end of the clip is where I like to do our bigcatrescue.org. So we'll come back up to Graphics, Browse, and you could search. I'm looking for the butterflies. So you would drag this motion graphic over here, and when I created this I made it way too long. So I just want it to play until the butterfly goes through the scene, lands on the O, and then you'll see it stops at one point. Once it stops, it doesn't do anything else. So we'll go back here to the end of where it stopped. Hit C on your keyboard, then V, and delete that. Move this back into place. And then you would position it just like you would any text. And you would also have to add the plane to sphere, because if it looks good here, it's wrong. It should be all arched in this scene, because the plane to sphere would make it look good in the headset, which is what we're aiming for. It's these motion graphics that I really love, because we can do all kinds of cool things with those and really make our stuff stand out from anybody else. But it's a whole learning curve in and of itself. And like I said, it took me a week to get that butterfly to land right side up. You can buy motion graphics, but then you have to edit them. So I actually bought a butterfly pack that I can copy you guys with so that you can play with it. It's that kind of attention to detail that I'm really hoping is going to make these spectacular. When you've got everything the way you want it, be sure to click away into the black here, so that nothing is highlighted, because if something is highlighted, it's only going to affect that one thing. So click into the black, hit Command M, and that will bring up the screen for exporting it. I have created an export that I really like, and so these are the settings that you would want to create and then save it as a custom. I'm going to show you the sequence settings that I like for our 360 videos, and then you can save them as a custom setting for export. So if you come up here, it says 360 VR highest resolution, and that automatically applies all of the selections that I made in the past. I'll show you what each of those are so that you can set yours up. It's H.264 under Format. Export video and export audio have to both be checked. This summary is filled in by the computer. There are no effects. Under video, the width should be 5120 and the height 2560. The frame rate 29.97. Field order progressive. Aspect is square pixels 1.0. TV standard NTSC. and render at maximum depth. Under encoding, you want software encoding, profile main, level 6.0. Bitrate encoding will be CBR. These are how you change it if you needed to. Target bitrate right there. Check that the video is VR. Your frame layout should be monoscopic. So you're at the end of those. Then you come down here, use maximum render quality, frame sampling. This tells you how big your file is going to be when you're done. If it's bigger than 10 gigabytes, you're not going to be able to upload that thing anywhere. So don't do it. Keep it under 10 gigabytes. Figure out what you got to do. Maybe cut it into smaller pieces to keep it under 10 gigabytes. The audio should be set to AAC, 48,000 hertz, stereo, and high. Your bit rate's 320. Your precedent is bit rate. Up here is where you choose what this thing's going to be called. So I'm going to say it's Alpha Bobcat Test. And where I want to save it on my hard drives, I create a folder here for my clips. I'm going to say save it there. It's not going to actually do it until you hit export. So once you know you got all of your sequence set the way you want, and once you do it the first time, just say save sequence as, I call it 360 VR highest res, and then hit export, and it will export your file for you. Your screenshots are very important because that's what people use as a decision maker when they're looking through all these different videos that they could look at. They're going to look at your screenshot, but your screenshot is going to look like that, which is not a good look. So what you'll want to do is go to your Finder and find your file when it's done. I'm going to pick one that's already done. Pick your file, right click on it, say open with GoPro VR player. And then you can drag your timeline along to something that looks good, hit stop, scroll up, get it exactly the way that you want it, and then hit Command-Shift-4, make a screenshot of it, and then you'll want to take that into Photoshop, add the little icon about it being Big Cat Rescues 360 videos. I'll send you that icon. You might want to put text on there, whatever you're going to do in Photoshop to make people really want to click on that image. And this is a nice way for you to be able to see what your video is going to look like before you actually publish it as well. So you can scroll around, you can see our logo on the bottom. When you're ready to quit, it will say, do you want to save your project? You can say yes or no. It does autosave throughout, but I think that's because I have set it to autosave throughout, so you might want to check in your preferences and make sure that you're saving, because the last thing you want to do is work for hours and have it all be lost because there's a lightning strike and you lose your power.